A Terran warship drifted through the silent dark like a myth wrapped in metal. For centuries, the galaxy had whispered about humanity's disappearance, convinced the species had been shattered, scattered, or quietly erased by forces too vast to defy. But in the far rim of the Orion Spur, in a region avoided even by the bravest starfarers, something impossible moved beneath the fractured starlight. It was a hull forged from alloys no empire had ever catalogued, a surface shimmering with spectral reflections of nebulae and dead suns. A vessel built not to be seen, but to be remembered. Its engines did not burn. They resonated, deep, harmonic, almost alive. And each pulse carried the unmistakable echo of a civilization that refused to die. For 200 years, the Citadel conglomerate had hunted for the remnants of Terra's fleets. Every database listed humanity under the polite classification of diminished presence. Their worlds, once shining symbols of rebellion and innovation, now lay under foreign colors. Yet deep in the ruins of their fallen colonies, a different truth had been growing, evolving, preparing. Inside the vessel's dim command chamber, holographic star charts glowed against armored walls. Symbols from long-forgotten Terran military codes flickered like ghosts returning to duty. The ship itself, designation unknown, moved with a predatory calm as if savoring the moment before the galaxy learned what it had missed. Beyond its reinforced bow, a massive gravitational disruption folded space like paper. A Valkyr Dominion dreadnought, 3 kilometers long, patrolled the region, its sensors sweeping for contraband vessels and unauthorized transits. Its hull bristled with shard cannons capable of pulverizing a moon. It was a fortress carved into the void. And it was completely unaware that it had just crossed paths with a legend. A soft tremor rippled through the Terran warship, not an alarm, but an awakening. Systems dormant for generations hummed with life. Internal lights flared to existence, casting long shadows across reinforced corridors. Ancient machinery whispered as it synchronized, as though the ship remembered what it had been built for. Not defense. Not retreat, retribution. Across the galaxy, humanity had been written off as a memory, brilliant once, tragic now. Outsiders believed the species had fractured under alien occupation, its fleets dissolved, its unity lost. But deep inside this vessel, protected behind impossible engineering and layers of quantum encryption, an entire archive pulsed like a beating heart, the last strategic record of the first Terran vanguard, names of soldiers long dead. Coordinates of battles no one survived. Codes for weapons never deployed. And within that library of history and hurt, one line of encrypted orders flashed in steady rhythm, like a spark refusing to fade: hold. Endure. Adapt. Then return. The ship's cloaking veil shimmered, then cracked like frost breaking under sunlight. The cold dark swallowed the echoing sigh of its engines as the warship revealed its silhouette, sleek, angular, unmistakably Terran. Across its armored plates, scorch marks and impact scars told of battles fought in silence and victories never recorded. The galaxy had believed humanity broken. But this ship was not broken. It was sharpening, and somewhere inside its armored core, something stirred. A presence, human, scarred by exile, hardened by years of silence, yet burning with a purpose older than the galaxies themselves. The figure stepped toward the command interface. Breath steady, eyes reflecting the blue glow of star maps aligning for the first time in centuries. Outside, the Valkyr dreadnought sensors flickered. An anomaly appeared on their tactical displays, a brief distortion, a tremor in the background vacuum. Too faint to classify. Too strange to ignore. The Terran warship slowed, repositioned, and drifted deliberately into the Valkyr ship's detection range, like a shadow choosing to stand in the sun. The galaxy wanted to believe humanity had vanished. It was about to learn that humanity had been watching. It was about to learn that humanity had been waiting. It was about to learn the cost of mistaking silence for surrender. The Valkyr dreadnought drifted through the star-warped expanse like a steel continent. Unconcerned and unchallenged. Its crew believed themselves untouchable, heirs of a dominion that had crushed 100 rebellions and silenced 1,000 worlds. To them, the faint energy flicker on their scanners was nothing more than background static. A sensor ghost. A harmless anomaly born from cosmic dust and dying stars. They did not know that the anomaly was watching them back. Inside the Terran vessel, the command chamber awakened in layers. Lights brightened with calculated precision, ancient systems interfaced with modern code, bridging the centuries like a heartbeat bridging two moments of life. The ship's architecture was a cathedral of defiance, every surface reinforced. Every circuit weathered yet unbroken. It had survived traps, ambushes, gravitational storms. It had outlived its creators. Now, it waited only for a choice. The lone human aboard approached the navigation dais, their fingers lightly brushing across the hollow surface. The map of the sector spiraled outward, revealing thousands of stars, millions of vessels, empires layered upon empires like sediment. So much had changed in humanity's absence. Borders redrawn. Cultures rewritten. Terran space consumed like a carcass picked clean, yet one star still burned at the center of the display, a golden sphere marked only by a single word no alien empire dared utter aloud: Soul, to those who once served the vanguard. Soul was not a memory. It was a promise, and promises had teeth. A low resonance trembled through the hull, like a sleeping giant taking a breath. The Terran ship aligned itself, its prow tilting just a fraction toward the dreadnought in the distance. Sensors expanded, scanning the Valkyr vessel layer by layer, armor composition, reactor output, weak points left exposed by arrogance. They found plenty. The human didn't speak. They didn't need to. The ship understood. It had been built to understand. The dreadnought's patrol path curved closer, oblivious. Its gravitational wake rippled outward, passing gently over the Terran hull, like the brush of a predator's tail across the ground before a hunt. The moment the wake touched the warship, dormant systems surged to full power. Cloaking mesh shattered away, peeling off like flakes of dying shadow. The Terran warship uncloaked, not with violence, with intention. Dark armor caught the starlight and bent it. Plate by plate, the ship revealed its shape, angular and predatory, forged from alloys the galaxy had never learned to reverse engineer. Its silhouette was unmistakable, a relic from an extinct civilization, a whisper from an empire that refused to fade. It emerged as if breathing itself back into reality. On the dreadnought's bridge, alarms blossomed like red flowers, unregistered mass detected, unidentified vessel decloaking. Origin, Terran. In an empire that prided itself on crushing human resistance, that word alone was enough to send tremors through ranks of hardened officers. The Valkyr captain barked orders. Their scanners swept frantically. Their weapons warmed, reactor flaring bright as a newborn star. The dreadnought aimed every sensor, every lens, every weapon toward the lone Terran ship, a single vessel dwarfed by the monstrous fortress now locking onto it. Size difference, overwhelming. Firepower imbalance, catastrophic. Survival probability, negligible. But the Terran ship remained motionless, drifting with deliberate calm. It did not charge weapons. It did not evade. It simply watched as if measuring the dreadnought. Not as a rival, but as an obstacle. Deep within the command core, ancient code branches opened, war protocols not activated since the final days of Terra's fall. Lines of text scrolled across displays, tactical projections forming like dust settling into old patterns. The human watched them all, shoulders squared, heartbeat steady. Across the galaxy, alien empires had believed humans were fragile because they broke. They never understood the part that mattered. Humans break, yes. But then they rebuild into something sharper. A shockwave rolled between the two ships as the Valkyr dreadnought primed its main cannon. The blast would vaporize the Terran vessel in a single strike. Even at this distance, the energy buildup distorted space, rippling like heat above a desert road. The human aboard the Terran warship inhaled slowly, not fear, memory. The ship responded, plating shifting, engines humming, ancient weapons stirring from the grave. It did not ready to retreat or plead, it prepared to strike first. In the dreadnought's final moment before firing, a surge of blue-white brilliance ignited along the Terran vessel's spine, a pulse as sharp and swift as a blade unsheathed in the dark. the galaxy had forgotten the sound of Terran power. It was about to be reminded. The first pulse from the Terran warship rippled outward in absolute silence. A flash so brief and so precise that the dreadnought sensors didn't register it. Until the damage was already done. A thin beam of compressed exotic particles lanced across the void, slicing through shielding fields as though peeling away layers of mist. The Valkyr ship shuddered, its armor glowing from within as internal systems failed faster than crews could comprehend. No explosions. No dramatic flare. Just a single, surgical wound that cut to the heart of a vessel built to intimidate entire star clusters. Something ancient and terrible had awakened in the dark. The dreadnought staggered, its gravitational anchor momentarily flickering. Thousands of crew members lurched as inertia shifted like a wounded beast trying to regain its footing. Across the entire superstructure, compartments locked down. Emergency doors sealed, and internal lights burned a chaotic red. The captain demanded fire. Now. At once. With everything they had, what answered was not defiance, but confusion. Screens flickering, control nodes desyncing, weapons refusing to respond. The Terran strike hadn't destroyed the dreadnought. It had crippled its authority. It had opened every old wound the Valkyr Dominion tried to bury under centuries of conquest. The warship's second pulse rippled through the void, a deeper resonance like a chord struck on a cosmic instrument. Panels across the Terran hull shifted, revealing glowing vents that spilled streaks of blue-white energy. Not as a threat, but as a declaration. Humanity was back. Inside the Terran command chamber, the ship projected tactical schematics in shifting layers, each revealing the dreadnought's structural weaknesses. The human aboard moved with instinct, not hesitation, every motion guided by the memories of war passed down through encrypted archives and old scars. Where the galaxy saw a relic, the human saw a weapon forged by desperation and brilliant rage. A vessel created in humanity's darkest hour. A whisper of a species that refused to go extinct. The dreadnought finally forced a counterattack online. Its main cannon surged with power, gathering a star's worth of energy into a focusing chamber the size of a city. Flashes of violet lightning crawled along its barrel. Carving jagged patterns across the void, the human watched the charging sequence without flinching. Fear was a luxury Terra had forgotten centuries ago. Across the Terran hull, shimmering panels shifted into alignment, forming a lattice of geometric plates that locked like armored feathers. Energy coursed between them, weaving a shield whose frequency twisted light itself. This was not defense. It was adaptation, alive, fluid, taught by centuries of observation. The dreadnought fired, space distorted. Stars bent. A beam of annihilating brilliance tore across the gulf, screaming toward the Terran ship with the force of an artificial supernova. The Terran vessel did not move. The shield absorbed the first impact like stone accepting the weight of a falling mountain. The beam pressed harder, energy cascading across the Terran armor in violent waves. The ship groaned, metal straining, internal decks rattling as systems diverted power with surgical precision. Even weakened, the Valkyr dreadnought unleashed enough destructive force to vaporize a continent, but the Terran ship held. It did not shatter, it did not buckle, it endured. In the galaxy's long history, no empire had ever designed a ship to survive a Valkyr main cannon. But Terrans had not built theirs to survive, they had built it to win. The human exhaled slowly, the ship echoing the breath with a low mechanical rumble. Energy discharged along its flanks, the shield shimmering as it adapted, recalibrated, and hardened. The dreadnought paused, stunned by its own failure. The Terran warship responded, 3 pulses. 1 heartbeat apart. Each one brighter than the last. The first pulse tore through the dreadnought's weapons array, carving it open like molten glass. The second severed its power spine, dropping internal energies into chaos. The third punched through its command tower, erasing the bridge in a flash of silent light. The massive Valkyr dreadnought, so feared, so revered, so arrogantly absolute, began to drift. Lifeless. Empty. A carcass falling into the gravity well of a nearby dead star. The Terran ship watched, engines humming softly, as the destroyer of worlds crumpled into a fading silhouette. Not out of cruelty. Not out of celebration, but out of an ancient, quiet understanding. If humanity didn't strike first, it would never get another chance. Across the galaxy, thousands of Valkyr listening posts pinged the final broadcast from their fallen dreadnought. A message distorted by static, dripping with panic. Uncloaked vessel. Unknown class. Terran design. Repeat. Terran. The signal echoed into every corner of Valkyr space. The galaxy had believed humans were gone. The galaxy had believed Terra had fallen. The galaxy had believed in a lie. The truth had just decloaked. Silence reclaimed the void, but it was no longer the calm of emptiness. It was the calm of inevitability. The Terran warship drifted past the ruins of the dreadnought, engines pulsing softly like a heartbeat, as if whispering a challenge to the universe. Debris scattered across the starlight, fragments of arrogance and conquest, each one a testament to the error of underestimating humanity. Inside, the human moved through the command deck with quiet purpose. Every step echoed through the ship, metal and memory resonating together, like walking through the skeleton of an empire that had once thought itself immortal. Fingers brushed holographic interfaces, bringing up long-buried star charts. Tactical data, and encrypted war archives. Every system hummed in perfect unison, a symphony composed over centuries, waiting for this moment. Beyond the observation viewport, stars shifted and bent against the pull of nearby nebulae, painting the void with violent strokes of crimson and sapphire. It was breathtaking, terrifying, but the human did not flinch. They had stared into emptiness before. They had stared into extinction. And they had chosen not just to survive, but to return as a reckoning. The Valkyr Dominion would not respond with a single ship. They never did. They would marshal fleets, summon fleets that could blot out a solar system, fleets built to enforce fear and obedience. Yet the Terran warship did not retreat. It did not hide. It did not plead for mercy. It moved forward, guided by a strategy older than most civilizations could comprehend. Outthink, outmaneuver, outlast. Across the command deck, tactical projections formed over the holomap in cascading layers, showing fleet movements, trade routes, supply chains, and hidden colonies long assumed abandoned. Every point of light a potential threat. Every star a possible battlefield. Every shadow a hidden opportunity. The human activated a deep network of probes, some buried in remote asteroids, others in the shells of destroyed stations, all long dormant, all ready. Streams of data flowed into the Terran system, revealing the weaknesses no empire wanted revealed, the blind spots in shields, the overextended patrols, the forgotten caches of fuel and ammunition. Every flaw catalogued, every vulnerability memorized. Humanity remembered what the galaxy thought it had lost. Then came the first response, not from a fleet, but from a single vessel, a scout corvette of the Valkyr Dominion, sent to identify the anomaly. It moved fast, sleek, confident, yet oblivious to the trap forming around it. The Terran ship's sensors identified its trajectory instantly, calculated its speed, its energy signature, its blind spots, and the human decided. A subtle pulse ran along the Terran hull. Energy flared in patterns almost imperceptible to the eye. The corvette entered the kill zone, its instruments detecting only what it wanted to see, a ghost of a ship, a phantom drifting through dead space. Then the pulse struck, gentle but devastating, tearing through its shields, shorting critical systems, and leaving it adrift, a warning, not a massacre. It was enough, the message was clear. Humanity was back, and it did not negotiate with fear. Humanity did not bow. Humanity remembered the sting of loss, and it had sharpened every lesson into a weapon of precision. In the weeks that followed, the Terran warship moved like a shadow across contested space, striking swiftly, vanishing just as quickly, dismantling entire supply lines and communication networks with surgical precision. Colonies once thought conquered were liberated, fleets once thought loyal to their conquerors defected, and every engagement reinforced the same undeniable truth. Humanity had returned not just as survivors, but as architects of its own reckoning. At the heart of it all, the human aboard the warship stood at the command dais, watching the galaxy bend and shift under the influence of one species that refused to accept its fate. The calm of the command deck mirrored the storm of stars outside, a paradox that only humanity could embody: serenity within chaos, patience within fury, and above all, pride in the face of insurmountable odds. The Terran ship drifted through a field of shattered satellites, glinting against the backdrop of a dying nebula. For the first time in centuries, it did not hide in the shadows. It did not wait for enemies to discover it. It projected its presence boldly, defiantly, as if challenging the universe itself to remember who had once tamed the stars. The galaxy was beginning to realize the scale of its miscalculation. And Terra, long forgotten, had only just begun to remind them. The galaxy began to stir. Fleets that had slept in confidence for centuries now trembled with uncertainty. Every sector whispered rumors of a warship that moved like a shadow yet struck like a storm, and the name Terran began to resurface across intercepted transmissions. A word that had been carefully erased from memory but refused to die. The Terran vessel advanced into contested space, gliding past the remnants of planetary defenses, scanning, calculating, and waiting. The human at the command deck moved with an almost meditative focus, eyes reflecting starlight and strategy in equal measure. Fingers traced the edges of ancient control panels, breathing life into systems that had not sung in centuries. Every movement was deliberate, every calculation carried the weight of a species' history, its pride, and its defiance. A new fleet emerged, larger than any the Terran ship had yet encountered, a Valkyr strike formation built for annihilation. Monolithic dreadnoughts, escort frigates, and support vessels converged, their engines blazing across the void, signaling the intent to crush the interloper before it could disrupt more than a single sector. Yet the Terran warship did not flinch. It had studied, waited, and anticipated every maneuver. The odds were astronomical, yet the human aboard did not calculate odds. They calculated opportunity. With surgical precision, the Terran ship danced between gravitic currents and energy fields, its engines humming with a harmony that defied expectation. Its first strike was sudden, a sweep of electromagnetic pulses that blinded sensors across the forwardmost vessels. Shields collapsed silently, engines stalled. And a chain reaction of confusion spread through the formation. Chaos erupted without a shot fired, and the fleet commander's calm facade cracked, revealing the first taste of fear. The Terran ship's second wave of action was even more elegant, almost poetic. Microdrones, each no larger than a fist, swarmed forward, embedding into critical weapon systems, diverting power, and sending cascading malfunctions across the fleet. The dreadnoughts groaned under the weight of their own overconfidence. A single vessel, once a symbol of terror, now drifted powerless, a monument to hubris. The human watched, eyes unblinking, hands steady. They were not a vengeful spirit. They were a surgeon of war, cutting away decay with precision born of centuries of preparation. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. The galaxy had assumed silence meant surrender. It was about to learn that silence was a strategy, and patience was its deadliest weapon. Amid the wreckage of disrupted fleets, the Terran warship advanced, moving like liquid metal through a storm of sparks and debris. Every pulse of its energy fields, every flicker of its weapon arrays, was both a warning and a lesson. Do not mistake absence for weakness. Far away, the Valkyr command citadels scrambled transmissions, issuing alerts, reorganizing forces, and sending urgent signals to every corner of their dominion. But the Terran warship had already anticipated this. Jamming frequencies, rerouting energy, and leaving the enemy blind and disoriented. Strategy unfolded not as brute force but as choreography, a lethal ballet conducted by centuries of survival instinct. A quiet moment passed as the Terran ship paused near a shattered moon, its reflection mirrored in the glassy surface of ice and rock. The human looked out across the void, a single silhouette against the swirling chaos of stars, nebulae, and distant suns. It was a moment of reflection, of remembering everything lost and everything reclaimed. Humanity's pride was not arrogance, it was resilience. Humanity's strength was not size, it was mind, will, and the refusal to bow. Then the warship moved again. Faster, smarter, striking the remaining forces with unerring accuracy. Each maneuver demonstrated mastery not just of tactics, but of hope, of history, of defiance. The Valkyr fleets faltered under the weight of something they had never understood, a species unwilling to submit, unwilling to vanish, unwilling to be erased, and as the dust of battle cleared, the Terran warship glided through the void, untouched, unsurrendered, a silent testament to an enduring truth. The galaxy had assumed humanity was gone. The galaxy had assumed it was powerless. The galaxy had assumed wrong, the void stretched endlessly, but it no longer felt empty. Across hundreds of light years, signals of humanity's return rippled outward like shock waves, carrying with them the certainty that the galaxy had underestimated the Terrans at its peril. Fleets scattered in confusion, colonies awoke from decades of subjugation, and even distant observers paused, sensing that a force long thought extinct had re-emerged with precision, pride, and purpose. The Terran warship advanced through the remnants of shattered fleets, moving with deliberate grace. Its hull bore the scars of centuries, yet it gleamed as if nourished by the very resolve of those who had built it. Systems hummed in harmony, weapons arrays recalibrated for efficiency, and engines whispered across the void like the wind through ancient canyons. Inside, the humans stood once more at the command dais, staring at a holographic map alive with activity. Star systems long lost to alien dominion now glimmered with potential, and every movement traced patterns only one mind could anticipate. They didn't feel triumph. They felt the weight of history, of sacrifice, of countless generations who had endured, adapted, and survived. And then the final challenge arrived, a convergence of Valkyr superdreadnoughts, command carriers, and orbital arrays, all focused on one goal: erase this Terran anomaly before it could strike further. The sheer scale of it was terrifying, a mechanical storm built to crush hope. Yet the Terran ship did not hesitate. It did not falter. It did not retreat, with a quiet hum. It engaged every hidden system, every ancient weapon long dormant, every tactical advantage accumulated over centuries. Pulses of energy flared across the void, invisible at first, then erupting into brilliance as massive shields failed, propulsion systems stalled, and weapon banks were ripped from their mounts. One by one, the Valkyr superstructures faltered, not from reckless attack, but from precision strikes that exploited knowledge and intelligence, the most human of weapons. The battle stretched for hours, then days, yet the Terran ship moved like a ghost, untouchable, calculating, unyielding. Fleets that had once prided themselves on invincibility now melted into shadows, unable to contend with centuries of strategy, foresight, and sheer indomitable will. Finally, the last dreadnought drifted in silence, engines dead, weapons cold. The Terran vessel passed by it without pause, its mission not destruction for its own sake, but demonstration. Humanity remembered, humanity endured, humanity had returned. Outside, the galaxy seemed to breathe, caught between awe and terror. Stars glimmered against the black canvas, nebulae spilled color across the void, and the wreckage of empire floated like a testament to one truth: underestimate humanity, and pay the cost. The human stepped back from the command dais, eyes tracing the endless expanse, chest rising and falling with calm inevitability. Centuries of exile, suppression, and near erasure culminated not in vengeance, but in presence. Not in chaos, but in certainty. Humanity had returned. And it would never again be forgotten. As the Terran warship glided silently into the dark between stars, a quiet pulse radiated outward, an unspoken message to the galaxy: we are here, we endure, and we will never bow. The stars themselves seemed to pause, as if the universe had just witnessed the rise of something it could no longer ignore.